Well, you've prayed already on the Temple Mount. Now you're going to pray towards the house or towards the Temple Mount and put your prayers in there. I'll tell you that there is a lot of miracles and answered prayer when people pray here. Lots of them. And Yah began to tell me that already after I got saved. I thought that I didn't need to do that because I have direct access to him, and I had a really important request from him that wasn't being answered. He said, go and put the prayer request at the kotel and it will be answered. Less than about 2 or 3 hours after I put the request, that prayer was answered. We've had people that have been barren, have been able to conceive children afterwards. A lot of miracles, because the prayer that King Solomon released here, the power of that prayer is still here. And so go and take your time. Pray. This is a place where people are unburdened, literally unburdened before Yah. And you will find many of the people, women or men, are going to be crying out for Mashiach to come. And you pray for him to reveal himself to them. Amen. It's so exciting. It's archaeology that is uncovering the Bible so that it's clear that this is Jewish, because the Muslims have tried to hide the evidence all the time. And so the mere fact that we are uncovering the Bible is very powerful. Amen.
So instead of the classic tour, we went through a lot of periods of history. So today we're just going to start with a little bit of a background to get us into things. And then we're going to be shooting down about 2,000 years ago. And we'll be hanging out there, okay, at the time of Herod, towards the end of almost the end, like about 80 years before the end of the Second Temple period. Okay. Oh, it's open today. Good, good. All right, welcome everybody.
Be careful as you go down. Hold the way, as needed.
And ready during the time of the Hasmoneans. All right, the Hasmoneans, that's going to be during the Greek period, about 160 BCE. They're going to build a bridge, okay? That's a bridge. What do you need a bridge for? So if you looked up, you could see that a lot of the quarter, let's say the Jewish quarter, is high up above. So you have a bridge connecting, it looks like it's here to connect the Jewish quarter with the temple. It really was built in order to bring water into the temple. And then eventually what happens, so that's what, in those days, if you wanted to raise ground level, what did you use how did you raise ground level? You had to build arches, right? Arches, and then arches on top of arches, and then they were able to bring the water across the bridge, and that's exactly where you guys are right now. If you look up, what do you got? Arches. How old are these? Now this is like, you can see there's smaller stones, Hasmonean. And then we needed more water, and then therefore on this side, that's going to be the southern edge of the bridge. This is going to be larger stones. This already is going to be Herodian. And that's going to be the second half of the bridge. And that's what this tour is about. We're going into this bridge. We're going to be hanging around at the base of the bridge. Okay, and therefore what's going to be, let's take a look what we have over here. There you go. Bridge is in place. This is what we think the Second Temple looked like somewhat. And you got over here still today what we've uncovered from this western retaining wall of the Temple Mount. You have over here what today is, what we're able to see is going to be the Western Wall. All right? Why is it called Western Wall? Western Wall of the Temple Mount. The temple obviously is destroyed. When was the temple destroyed?
90.
Okay, yeah. So the Romans destroy the temple, destroyed in the year 70 CE, and that's what it's going to be like. You're going to have right after that destruction, so you're going to have during the Roman period probably a pagan temple on top to Jupiter. And if we jump ahead to the 324 to the Byzantines, so they're going to leave, they're going to get rid of the paganism, and that's how it's going to be until the year 630. Well, 638 is going to be the Muslim conquest of Israel. And then afterwards, short time afterwards, 691, based upon a Jewish tradition where the temple once stood, you're going to have the building by Caliph Malik in 691. Yeah, you have the Dome of the Rock. Okay, we're all good? Let's jump ahead 700 years. We're now going to be talking about, we find ourselves in the Mamluk period. And the Muslim residents of Jerusalem want to live in close proximity to the Dome of the Rock, the Golden Dome. And they want to live on the same height as the Golden Dome. So how do you raise ground level again? Arches. So they build arches all in this area. Arches on top of arches until eventually you get, boom, arches and arches, and you lift up the city and it comes straight up, snug up against and covering the entire western retaining wall of the Temple Mount. That's what it's like 700 years ago. 500 years ago, you had an earthquake and the houses right over here fell down, unveiling this area, and the Jewish residents and pilgrims to Jerusalem, instead of praying on the southern wall, came back over to this area because of the close proximity of this western wall to where the temple once stood. That's what it's going to be like for about 500 years, till you get to 1967, the reunification of Jerusalem in the Six-Day War, and that brings us up to date. We're going to be heading down. As you can see, this is what's called today the Muslim quarter of the Old City. We're underneath inside these tunnels, but also we're going to be sitting right here in the bridge. The bridge is still there. It was just built over, and that's where we find ourselves. We're right inside this bridge. We're going to go down to ground level. We have some buildings left over from the Herodian period. We're standing right here now. We're going to head down into this big building, and I'm going to explore down below over there. Okay, so where are we now? We're at the base of the bridge, of the Great Bridge. On top of us, again, is Herodian. Towards in front of us is going to be Hasmonean. What is this below? Yes, correct. Dr. Bierman's correct. This is a mikveh. Very nice mikveh, nice and large. What is a mikveh? A mikveh is a mikveh, right? A spiritual ritual pool. Now, even if a person was spiritually pure, most of impurity came from being in touch with death. We're celebrating life over here. So even if you're spiritually pure, you still, before going up on the temple, which is the ultimate impurity, you'd have to go immerse yourself in the mikveh. It's nothing to do with rubber ducky and hygiene. It's just it's a purity that you read up on the mikveh. It brings about spiritual purity, and we found this thing down. What was the usage of this one? That we don't know why. What's the question about it? Now, we have found in this area, let's see if you could see. So in this area, that's the western side of the Temple Mount, and on the southern excavations of the Temple Mount, we've found over 150 mikvahs. Why so many? This time of year, right? You have thousands, if not millions of people coming into the temple, so you need a lot of these mikvahs for all the crowds coming in. This one's a little special, and also this one, it happens to be inside that building I showed you up above. Guys, all right, where it came down from the bridge, and we're standing right over here looking at this mikvah. It's inside the building. And the question is going to be, what was the purpose for it? I don't know. We're not sure. Maybe it was like for VIP, get your tickets. Maybe it was for the high priest before he went all the way up onto the temple himself. But this is about what we've also found is not only mikvahs where the Jewish citizens, residents had to use, but from all over the world, we have found coins that document where people are coming to visit the temple. At this point in time, it's going to, this is a little bit before, it's about, let's say, 20 to 30 BC. But obviously, for amongst us over here, for Christian, those of you who are Christians, you'll have an appreciation of the temple in that first century. And the temple, people are tired of the pagan, violent Roman, unjust Roman world, and they're coming to see the temple because what's the temple broadcasting? That's what is in the prophets. Shalom, brotherhood, justice, peace, charity, you name it, a just society. So they're coming to the temple, and we have coins from all over the Mediterranean basin of everybody who's flocking to the temple. So it's very special, this whole area. what we're going to do is, we're just keeping track of the time, so we're going to walk past. You got to imagine, obviously, back in the time, it's a beautiful building. You could see the cornice over here, and what's that called? It's a fake out. These pillars, they're pilasters. They're fake out. They're not really a pillar, but they put it in for decoration. Now you have to imagine this room was covered over with like nice white and probably has paintings on it. What do you think would be the use of a room like this? Nice and big. So we think that Charles Warren came in. He's an explorer. You'll hear about him. Actually dug his way in. During the Ottoman Turkish period, he wasn't allowed to do excavations, but he was allowed to punch shafts going down. He came in here, but this whole thing was filled up with about 2,000 years worth of gunk, of dirt and rock. And so he didn't see much. He did realize, though, that there was very beautiful masonry. So in his mind, what did he say? Masonry, who's the famous masons from the way back?
Hiram,
maybe
King
from
Solomon.
the first. Oh, it's exactly. So he thought it was Solomon, the Masons. But then we realized after 67, excavators came down here, realized, first they thought it might be Hasmonean, but then they soon realized it's actually Herodian. So this goes back to the Herodian period. So wait a second, let's think about it again. If Herod built this thing, what is Herod, like, you've been to Masada? Like Masada, right, starts out as a fortress and eventually becomes a 5-star hotel. Why? Because Herod is bringing all of his friends down from Italy to spend the winter in the Dead Sea area. So maybe this was his VIP room for hanging out. Maybe this is where he had banquets. We're not sure, but that's what we think. So this is the period.
And what's that pillar in the middle?
Oh, so Dr. asked the pillar. This is pretty cool. This pillar in the middle was supportive of, I guess, this arch. So wait a second, something's missing here. What does that mean? Let's get the heck out of here as quick as possible.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary. But what they did is, you can see over here these metal brackets. So these are called Golda's brackets. When I say Golda in Israel, who do I mean? Golda Meir. So the story on is that they brought Golda, she was prime minister in the early 70s. They brought her down here, and they wanted to bring her here and give her a banquet. And the security team said, no way. They looked at this thing, and they looked at something's missing here. They said, no way, we're bringing the prime minister into here. And then they said, okay. Overnight, they put up these brackets, and they obviously allowed the prime minister to come for the banquet. Since then, it's been called Golda's brackets, because she could come for the dinner, right? But they're up there, and they do absolutely nothing. They're just attached to the ceiling.
So they don't secure the place?
No, they don't secure anything.
To make believe.
Make believe.
Okay.
Over here, anybody want to suggest, you see these massive lintels, massive doorway, but it's a double doorway. That might tip off in your head something. What would be, what's a massive, where do you find the motif of large double doors?
Entrance to the precincts of the temple, because from one side you entered, from the other side you came out.
Did I hear you? You have? That Dr. Bierman is 100% right. This is the motif of the temple. Again, brings us back to that period, Herodian period. That's what we think is the story.
This would have been an entrance to the temple then.
Well, we're going to see. We're a little bit.
I mean, there is a mikveh, so they could have washed themselves and then entered in. So
what the doctor's suggesting is from here, that then they could have gone up the stairs, right, and gotten onto the bridge and gone in. Yes, very possibly. But it's that period and that motif. That's right. I want everybody to please be careful, because their stairs here are not uniform at all. So don't trip up. Please watch your step. We're heading back 2,000 years for sure. All right, welcome. It's the Second Temple period. Temple's still there. And welcome to a functional mikveh from 2,000 years ago. You'll come down afterwards. You'll take a look at it. It's not that deep. You have over here, the water's coming out. We don't know where it's coming from. Why? Because we're underneath a 700-year-old Mameluke city, so we're not sure where exactly it's coming from, and it's going out over here, and we're not sure where it's going to. And I don't know. They tried figuring it out. They got people with whatever the fancy machines. They can't figure it out. But this goes back 2,000 years. How do we know it goes back 2,000 years? So we got to find something. You'll see this if you were at the wall already, at the kotel. What's going to be a giveaway that it goes back to the Herod's style of construction? What did his walls look like, or his stones on his walls look like?
Very defined, and so he really defined the rocks. Before, all the walls and everything was a conglomerate of stones that were not, polished. But this one is polished, yeah.
So Dr. Bierman is showing with his hands right now, I don't know if it was a frame. He has frames. If you go out to the kotel, to the western wall, you'll see that the bottom 7, 8 rows are still Herodian. And you'll see on them, they have a frame around them. So if you look in this corner over here, what do you happen to see on these walls? There's the frames, right? And it's rubbed down already, but you could see on the flooring in a lot of places also frames. So this takes us back to, it's going to date us into the Herodian period. So we know that this pool comes from the Herodian period. It's a pretty exciting, thought. So exciting that we used to have a lot of younger guys, especially, that would come in. When I first started here, like about 10 years ago, I'm a tourist, and he said, "You're telling me I have a mikveh from 2,000 years ago? I'm there." I said, "Excuse me, sir, but we don't really do that." He said, "No, give me 2 minutes." Before I could say anything, jumped in here. There was a curtain there. And 2 minutes later, I hear splash, splash, splash. 2 minutes, he comes back out, buttoning up. So I told you it would take me only 2 minutes. So they put up, and the people would come, they put up a door. They locked it down. Then the young kids, they would come in at night and climb over. So we had to put up the second gate over there. This is like amazing that we're able to walk in the footsteps of our ancestors. This is one example of many that you'll find of coming in the footsteps of our ancestors. Okay, any questions up until this point? You guys ready to keep charging along? Excuse me, we want to go in. All right, we'll take turns.
I'm not worried about the bacteria.
It's fresh water, right? You can see. Everyone can take a look down. Yeah.
2,000-year-old water.
It's very clean. It's flowing. I don't know what it is. Where we From here, you can see what they're doing now is that they're digging underneath the Kotel Plaza from here all the way to meet up with this.
Wow.
And in like a couple of years, you'll have a choice of either praying at the Kotel, at the Western Wall,
Or at the Liba.
or underneath. In other words, either in the year 2027, or go down underneath, and you'll be standing right over here and praying in the year 700 BCE.
Wow.
That's what's coming up. They're working on that now. This is really a fascinating, also, piece of archaeology. But forget about this whole area. Somebody punched a hole right through here, so forget that, okay? That will get us back, by the way. Keep this in mind. You'll hear about him, Charles Warren. He actually comes down through a hole, and this whole area is filled with gunk, right? 2,000 years of dirt and rock that had been washed in here and then got dried up, and that's what you have here. So he didn't know what he was. He's looking for ancient Jerusalem. It's so sadly ironic. He doesn't realize he's punching a hole right through one of the great commemorations of ancient Jerusalem. Why? What do we have over here? What does this look like? Again, forget this. This is squared off. What does this look like? It's a mikveh. It's correct. Where's the water coming from? Right here. And what's that going to connect us up with? From the water from on the bridge. Comes running down here. That's how they're feeding the water to all these places. Now, you have all this thing. So what kind of a mikveh could it be? It's so weird. So they originally thought it might be what? A mikveh from a mikveh for utensils.
For the utensils of the temple.
That's right. They come down. That's what they originally thought. And this is also a beautiful lesson that came during the holidays, like we're coming up on Tabernacles. They didn't stand at the door and check everybody to make sure that they were spiritually pure. you know, you want to it's the holidays, it's happiness, and we all are stand together. And then after, though, the holidays, you never know. So then there was a time, then after the holidays, they take the vessels of the temple and bring them into a mikvah. They've realized since, the archaeologists said it's not true. It sounds great. Having a separate mikvah for utensils really is something that's from the 1900s, believe it or not. What they think is like this is really cool. I always think about the proverbial, you don't want to rub shoulders with the wrong person. Right? Where is that going to come to? From the Torah. Because if you're spiritually impure, so you have to go in the mikvah. But you know, what about the person who just finished up in the mikvah? They're coming out, you're coming in. You don't want to rub shoulders. Here, they think it might be that everyone's walking towards the temple. So you go, and then you stand here, you give a dunk, and then you come back out. That's what they think this is really right now. Wow. I think we should get closer on in and see what we could find. So come on down, and I want to welcome you all to, welcome to the Western Wall. Look at this. You are underneath. This is where everybody's standing. We're on the inside. We're on the cavernous area that's covered over on the far left. So if you go out this direction, you'll be in the Kotel Plaza itself. But even if you're at the Kotel, that's not ground level. No. If you're standing at the Kotel, you still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12. You got another 12 stories down. Something that people don't see. The building, and if you're standing at the Kotel, you'll see that the first 6, 7, 8 rows are Herodian. What's above it? Larger squares without the frame, which is what? That's going to be from the Muslim period when they're rebuilding the Temple Mount. And then the top of the Kotel is going to have smaller stones, which is going to go from the Ottoman Turkish period. So you have a lot of periods out there. But the Herodian construction, his wall was huge. A lot of it was the Romans destroyed. Not only did they destroy the temple, they tried to destroy the entire Temple Mount. They were unsuccessful. Herod wins again. He built too strongly. But we come down now underneath and look at this. You can see the beauty of these stones because they have not been exposed to the elements for the last 1,700 years. And so they still got their pinkish hue. And you can see people are starting, because of this is closer still to to exactly where the temple stood. You see people pray a little bit here. They start putting in these little prayer slips into the sides. It's pretty amazing. What you see, though, is that how tall was this building? It starts like way below us. This must be 15 meters below us. It goes up. It must have been like a 60-meter tall building. So that's what? How many stories? How many apartments, like floors, would that be today? 20 floors, something like that. 25. So that, like, they didn't build like that back in the days, but Herod did, which might maybe take a look at. What's amazing also is how he was able to construct with these things weigh tons. Look how straight everything is. That's an amazing feat. As we're walking, I'll explain that. But look, each story of stone is pushed back about 2 centimeters. Right? Why? What possibly might be also is anybody, if you ever stand at the bottom of a skyscraper and you look up, what does it feel like? Like the thing's going to fall on you. So they said it could be that Herod realized that this is unusual. It was the largest religious precinct that existed in the ancient world. And it was so beautiful. And the descriptions that we have, both from the rabbinic, the Talmud, and also from, who's reporting live from the Temple Mount? Josephus. And he describes it also, the marble, the silver, the gold. It was just a beautiful building. It could be that Herod was worried people would feel that this huge wall is falling on them. So he therefore, he pushed it back, indented it. Yeah, every story go back a little bit from you to make it like an optical illusion, as if the building is falling away from you.
We're going to enter now into the Jewish quarter. Oh.